Welcome to this special episode of Voices of the Summit of Greatness. It's a podcast collaboration featuring 5 attendees who are also podcasters. You'll hear from Bloch, Ryan, Steve, Sean, and Heather as they share their experiences on the Summit of Greatness.
Hello to you. This is Heather Hakes, host of the Mind Over Matter podcast, and I'm giving you my key takeaways from this year's 2019 Summit of Greatness. This was actually my second year attending the summit, and what I love most about this event is connecting with the people. Talk about surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. I just love the supportive community and the passion and fire behind all of the entrepreneurs and the people there interested and ready to better themselves. Going into this year's event, I was a little on the fence of whether or not I was excited because, to be honest, I hadn't heard of any of the speakers. But let me just tell you, I was absolutely blown away by this year's speakers. And I believe what that lesson or message is to go in with no expectations, because that way you can be blown away. A lot of times I find us going into relationships or job offers or travel experiences with really high, potentially unattainable expectations, which always leads to disappointment. So I really enjoyed this experience of going in kind of blindly, had no idea what I would expect. I want to give you my key takeaways from each speaker, the first one being Leanne Rimes. Obviously, I know her backstory of being a singer, but I had no idea what she's been up to. What I loved about Leanne's message is she was all about grounding and coming to your authentic self. And a question she asked the audience was, what piece of me is craving to voice? She shared a message that her voice has always been used to serve others, hence her singing. But she realized she hadn't been using her voice for herself, and I found that so powerful. The next speaker was Mylett, and to be honest, I feel like I'm like the last one to the party that I had no idea who Ed was. Ed is so full of passion and purpose and serving others. He is such a humble individual. I loved a story he shared in which, and you would have to tune into Ed's podcast or messaging his content to really get the full story because he definitely tells it much better. But he shared a big struggle and obstacle in building his gorgeous home in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Long story short, the takeaway was, whatever you see as the mess in your life, take that mess, repurpose it, and build something great. What I also love about Ed is his whole step into the real you, to stop playing small. And he talks about living at the 75-degree temperature. All of us have a thermostat, and all of us are living at a comfortable temperature. Whether that's 75 for you, maybe it's 80, maybe it's 90, maybe it's 60. But the point is, whatever that comfortable temperature is set at, that's where you stay. So even if you step above that and you're up leveling, you will bring yourself back down to that comfort zone. So my message to you is always step outside of your comfort zone and raise that thermometer. Hands down, Kyle Cease was my most favorite speaker of the event, but I have to tell you, I did love all of them. But Kyle Cease's message, and again, I didn't know him before this event. However, I had listened to his podcast episode with Lewis Howes. Kyle is like this woke individual, but he's funny because he's formerly a comedian. So he's able to bring humor to some new age or spiritual thinking, but such great takeaways. I want to give you a couple because seriously, I liked him that much. Number one, he shared with us, anytime you're experiencing something negative or something unwanted, all you have to do and say is, today's weather sucks. And I love that. And it really is that simple. So all you do is you have your fill in the blank and you end it with, and I love that. Not only does that help your perspective, it gets you out of victim mode, and it really changes the scenario. The second really, really powerful takeaway for me is most of us are so afraid to let go of what we have because all we can see is what we will lose. However, we don't know what we will gain. So whether that's relationships, a job, moving, whatever it is, you think you're losing all these things, but really, there's so much more to gain. A final takeaway from Kyle Cease is this: to move on faith versus evidence. And that's the whole believing it before you see it. The next speaker who I loved, gosh, talk about energy, is Jetsi Itzler. And I think so many of us had the same takeaway. And his quote that I wrote down and I haven't forgotten it since is, "Be where your feet are." And that is so powerful because I know what it's like to future trip. I know what it's like to play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. But the fact is, all you are guaranteed is this present moment. So work on being totally present. I'm going to sum this up with a couple more takeaways from two more speakers, and that is Marissa Peer, who I am now coining the modern day Mary Poppins. I freaking loved her, and she had such a simple message, and that is, whatever you say, it sinks into your mind. Your mind is literally a sponge. So whether you're speaking negative things or positive things, it doesn't matter because that's what's sinking in. The final speaker was Stephan Speakes, who talked about relationships, and that is one topic that I love talking about. I think we can all relate to, but a big takeaway I had from Stephan was the importance of healing. And what I mean by that is, and he said specifically, you can't heal anybody, but you can heal yourself. And by healing yourself, it does become a domino effect. And most importantly, you have to heal by releasing those past hurts and those past traumas to not suppress them. If you haven't had the chance to attend a Summit of Greatness yet, I highly suggest you put it on your to-do list for 2020, and I might even see you there.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Tomko, and I'm very excited to be able to share my thoughts with you about the Summit of Greatness 2019, and I don't want to forget to thank Sean for allowing me to come on and give my thoughts and share my ideas and information. Summit of Greatness 2019, what an amazing time it was, right? This was my second year attending, and the thing I took away from 2018 was just how incredible the people were. Now, sure, the speakers were amazing, and getting to meet some of them, incredible, right? However, just like last year, this year was the same way. Speakers were incredible, amazing. The thing that really keeps me excited about it and is leading me to go back next year again as well is the people, though. The community of people that are there, sharing ideas, just spreading positivity, spreading joy. There's no competition between one another, even if we're in the same, realm, if we're working in the same field. It's how can we lift each other up, give each other ideas, push each other in the right direction, and motivate each other. It really is just a collection of amazing people that really want to grow and make an impact in this world. And that's what I've taken away each year. Just like Sean, I've met many amazing people since going to the Summit of Greatness that I know will be lifelong friends. People that really just reach out all the time and cheer me on, even if I'm having a down time. And I try to do the same in return. Just reach out and cheer them on, make sure they're going in the right direction, and see if there's any way I can help them as well. It's really exciting to be able to come back my second year now and see some of those people and how far they've come, how much they've grown, and just what they were able to accomplish in a year's time. Because I know that we all have the potential to be up there on the stage speaking, and we're all slowly building towards that. And just in every facet of things that we do, we're doing it with greatness. And that's what I think embodies the Summit of Greatness. Just everything we do, from the workouts, from just meeting people, the kindness that's there. I mean, I don't think I've met a mean person the last 2 years. And it really says something about the environment and the people that are there. It's exciting to get to go into. I remember my first year being so nervous and just feeling out of place, feeling out of touch. Then when I got there, people were coming up to me very cordial, very polite, and just very interested in me and what I was doing, Even though I didn't have a business, I didn't have a podcast at the time, I wasn't doing certain things. However, it was really, really encouraging for me to have people around me that were really just going all out to just get my interest and see what I was into and be all in for me and see if there's any way they could help me. That was so exciting to see for one of the first times in my life, just being able to be around amazing minds and get inspired. I mean, after leaving my first year and the second year, I have left so determined, and it has got me moving in the right direction just in every area of my life. Not to mention the speakers. The speakers this year were incredible. Now, I was familiar with the day one speakers at Mylett, Jesse Itzler. I was not familiar with Leanne Rimes or Kyle Cease. However, they both blew me away as well. Now, day two, I had no idea who any of the speakers were. Marissa Peer, Stephan Speakes, and they really blew me away as well. Just everybody's individual stories really just come together. And although they're mostly telling different messages, it hits you in such a profound way that really wants to impact you and help you grow, help you learn about yourself and the people you're helping, the people you're serving. And it just really puts you in the right frame of mind to go out and make an impact in your life and the life of others. If you're on the fence about attending the Summit of Greatness in the future, or if it's something you've thought about doing, I can't encourage it enough. Even if you feel like you aren't in the right place to attend something like that, you feel like you don't belong because you don't have a business, you don't have a podcast or a book or whatever it is, you are going to bring value just by being yourself and showing up in the best way you can. You will meet people that will impact you profoundly. I can guarantee you that. As long as you're open and willing to receive that, it will come to you. Those people will find their way to you, and you should feel free to go up and talk to people. The other cool thing about my second year around was this: after attending the first year, the second year I just felt like a veteran and so much more comfortable to go up and meet amazing new people and just start new friendships. And these people are just world movers, and it is so inspiring to see them and follow them as they go forward. And I can't wait to hopefully see you at the Summit of Greatness next year in 2020. If you're on the fence about it, reach out to Sean, reach out to myself, and we can help you along. We will meet you there, and we'll give you a hug, and we will go celebrate and work together and learn together. It's an exciting time. If you're willing to make it out to Columbus and make it happen, you are going to benefit greatly, no matter where you are professionally, where you are emotionally, or where you are personally. The Summit of Greatness will benefit you.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Brock Richard. I am the host of the Sharpen Your Sword podcast, and I'm super excited to be a part of this podcasters collaboration put together by my buddy Sean, host of the Soul Tears podcast. And what we're talking about is our experience over the last weekend at the Summit of Greatness in Columbus, Ohio. And what I need people to understand is that the Summit of Greatness is so much more than a conference. It is an experience. It is a weekend of emotion, of transformation, of transcending limiting beliefs, of connecting and developing relationships with like-minded people. And it is just such a powerful event. So if you're listening and you've never been to this event, you need to get your butt out there for 2020, because it will be one of the wisest investments that you've ever made in yourself. But with that being said, I wanted to dive right into some things that I felt and took away from the weekend. And I wanted to start with a gentleman that spoke there, and his name is Jesse Itzler. This guy is 51 years old and has challenged himself more in the last year physically than I probably have in my entire life. You can check it all out on Instagram and see everything that he's been up to. But what I really wanted to share, and what he really hammered home for me, is the importance of experiences in our lives. And he talked about how if he could leave behind $1 million for his kids, or if he could leave behind a lifetime of experiences, he would choose the experiences all day, every day. And that was just really powerful for me. And he talked about how every single year he does something so hard that it defines the other 364 days of the year. So you create this pipeline of experiences and incredibly challenging, amazing things that you've done for yourself and got out of your comfort zone and just did things that you wouldn't normally do. So you just create a legacy and a lifetime of incredible experiences for yourself. So that was the first thing that really hit home for me. And the next thing was to reestablish your relationship with time. He talked about living a life of urgency, and he made this analogy of our life being this bus ride that never stops, that never pumps the brakes. It doesn't care if we run into challenges with our health. It doesn't care if we have a death close to us. It doesn't care if we break our arm. This bus that is our life is going to keep going. So we need to do our part to make the most of every single day and every single moment, and to remember tomorrow, which is something that he said that really made me start thinking. And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but what he means by that is think about the decisions that you can make today that are going to benefit you long term, that yourself of tomorrow is going to thank you for, whether that's getting up and going to the gym or running a marathon. Like, whatever that is for you, just remember tomorrow and remember what you're going to feel or how you're going to feel about yourself having made that decision today when you're reflecting back on it tomorrow. So that's ultimately what that means, and something that really rang true for me and is really encouraging me to live a life of urgency and just experience as much as I can, regardless of the circumstances that are happening in my life. So Jesse Itzler, super powerful. Definitely check this guy out if you have never heard of him. So that's the main thing I wanted to hammer home. And the last thing I'll leave you guys with is a quote from a gentleman that also spoke over the weekend named Stephan Speakes. Speakes isn't his last name, it's just what he goes by. At the moment, I'm not sure what his last name is, but I know that's his Instagram handle, so check this guy out as well. And something that he said is that relationships are the backbone of society. So that's something that rings really true for me as well. And something that I also kept in mind throughout the entire weekend, because you never know what relationship and what partnership or whatever it may be that you're robbing yourself of if you decide to not introduce yourself to somebody. I can naturally be super introverted and I can be pretty shy and I can avoid introducing myself to people because it's tough and it can feel awkward if you just don't know that person. But everybody at this conference is super open-minded and super welcoming and super supportive of your story. And yeah, everybody just wants to connect and help each other. And it is just such a powerful community. It might be a little bit tougher in your environment, but just think about what you might be robbing yourself of if you don't introduce yourself to somebody. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. Thank you so much for hearing me out and hearing my takeaways and the things that I felt over the weekend at the Summit of Greatness in Columbus, Ohio. Take care, everybody.
Hi there, my name's Stephen. I'm part of the podcast Beyond the A, where we try to destigmatize anxiety and mental health in the legal profession. I'm so excited to be part of this podcast series and just to share my 2 takeaways from the Summit of Greatness. Now, this is my second time going to the summit, and I find that every time I go, my life changes. I just feel so refreshed and rejuvenated. There was one story that really resonated with me. It was with the very amazing guy, Mylett. He was the main reason why I went to the Summit of Greatness this year. And there's one story that Ed talked about. It was about writing chapters in your book. Now, this really resonated with me because sometimes I look back at my old chapters of my life and I just reread them. But how many times are you just stuck in the past? I know I am, for sure. And he talks about, we all have the pen in our hands to really write the next chapter of our book, right? Whether we're staying in the same chapter or we're going to flip the page. So he's like, when are you going to flip the page? When are you going to try something new? When are you going to take on new experiences? Or do you want to be living in the same chapter of your life over and over and over again? And so the idea of just like framing your life as a series of chapters in your books just really blew my mind, and it just gave me a new perspective on what it means to either be constantly living the same way we are, or just every day or every month, every year, moving on to that next chapter of life. The second takeaway I got from the Summit of Greatness is from the speaker, Kyle Cease. I'm sure the other podcasters will be talking about him too. He just exudes presence, and it's one thing that I've been learning and trying to adapt. And you hear about this term, being present in the moment, but it's not until when you listen to Kyle Cease talk about it. His main premise is that he talks from the heart. Even from now, like I don't necessarily have any set notes prepared, but I'm just speaking what comes through our mind and it comes through my intuition. My background is as a lawyer, and as lawyers, we're very analytical. We're always trying to predict the worst, which makes us good lawyers, but not necessarily great when it comes to being fully mindful and just feeling happy where we are. So the ability to be very present and just speak from the heart is a life changer. It's a life changer. So I highly recommend. He did a 2-hour podcast with Lewis Howes where he went into detail about what does this actually mean, right? Because when we're in tune with our feelings, when we trust our guts and we really feel what is right or wrong. For example, for myself, I like to seek external validation or opinions on certain ideas I'm chasing, right? But ultimately, Kyle talked about how we actually all have the answers inside of us, right? We know the pros and cons. We know exactly the situation. And as much as we try to seek external advice, ultimately, if we actually spend 5 to 10 minutes just thinking about what comes from within, we actually have the answers. So that was an absolute game changer, and I shared this tip with my team, my execs, and we're just passing the knowledge along. So thank you, Sean, for this opportunity. See you guys next time. Check us out, Beyond the A, and we'll chat to you soon. Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Bloch. I'm the host of Soul Tears. It's a podcast where we talk about those emotional aha moments we have in life. I'm very excited to be part of this collaboration podcast, and I want to take this time to especially thank my co-collaborators who made this possible. Thank you, Brock, Steve, Ryan, and Heather. I'm going to be sharing 2 takeaways I had from the Summit of Greatness, and I just want to let you know I did this in the moment. So I recorded this right after the first morning. I literally went up to my room, turned on the recorder, and went for it. So I just wanted to capture exactly what I was feeling at the time. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy it. But just let me tell you, Leanne Rimes, I don't even care if I had never heard of her, if she was just a everyday person off the street, whatever it was, her message today was just so powerful. It was just about opening up and letting people hear her voice. And obviously she has a voice for being a country superstar, but that's not really what she wanted people to hear. She wanted to hear about her kind of coming to terms with who she is and finding out who she is after so many years of being on stage and being in front of crowds. She had us first of all, she sang a song, and I can't tell you what the words were exactly, but it was so heartfelt and connected. It was something she wrote as she's going through some changes in her life and identifying some things she wants to grow and kind of be a better person. With that said, her song, a cappella, was so emotional that I'm tearing up thinking about it, because it was real. It was real. And it just touched me, and the energy was so amazing. We started the day with such a powerful, introduction. Like when she walked up on stage, it was so loud and crazy and fun, and then she just brought things down with her song, but in such a good way. I connected so strongly with what she said, and again, I don't really remember the words of the song, but the sounds, the vibrations of her voice felt so amazing that I'm just almost speechless thinking about it. And I just wanted to convey that sometimes when you're at conferences or when you're doing different things in life, sometimes you just have these feelings inside that are just so strong and just so connecting. And that's the kind of things I like to talk about, and so that was amazing. And then we had Mr. Ed Mylett, and he is a tough, strong dude. Like, he looks like you would find him in a bar, like, drinking whiskey with tattoos and everything like that. But his message was so genuine. It was all about giving and giving and giving, and the power of giving and connecting to yourself. And one of the things that he did, which I thought was unbelievable and I really appreciated, he asked us to think about somebody really special we have in our lives or had in our lives growing up or what have you. It could be a parent, relative. And how did that person make you feel? And what was that feeling about? And who was that person? And get them in your mind. And I just kept thinking about my grandma Bloch. God rest her soul. She's 90. She was passed away at 99, but I always felt so special when I was with her. I always felt like I was her favorite. Probably all her grandkids were her favorite, but I felt so connected to her and I felt so special. I couldn't wait to see my grandma. That feeling of getting a piece of chocolate or candy or just being, hugged and kissed or whatever. One funny story is one time she tried to cut my hair. She didn't know how to cut hair, but I wanted straight hair and I had curly hair, and she did everything she could to try to cut it straight, but she couldn't. It just didn't work, and she massacred my hair. But the point is what I connected from that is when you're struggling in life and doing different things, like, how can you be that special someone for somebody else? How can somebody, when they're my age, look back and go, this person, Sean or whoever, made me feel this way? And that was such a powerful feeling. And I just wanted to remember that. So very different speeches and presentations today, but the core of both the two of them is it got you to feel something inside, deeply and passionately inside. And I'm looking forward to more of the conference. And thanks for listening to this special episode of the Voices of the Summit of Greatness. A special shout out to all the podcasters who collaborated for this special episode. If you liked what you hear, maybe we'll see you next year at the Summit of Greatness 2020.